Hello and welcome to Tokenverse podcast series, where we bring together creators, blockchain experts, intellectuals, and investors to brainstorm the future of Web3 technologies. And this production is brought to you by DoinGud, which is NFT Marketplace, empowering the creators and also connecting people who want to do good across the world. In this particular episode, we're going to talk about NFTs for sports fans, and sports stars and their fans. And we're very lucky to have excellent panel today. I'm going to start with introduction of Chip Scarinzi, who's got 20 years in the communication field. He's the author of books. I believe 2 of them are on sports. And he's also deputy US technology lead at H&K Strategies. Chip, I think you should tell us a bit more about the project that you're working on.
Sure, I guess, and thank you very much for having me. I'm really excited to be part of this discussion. I have my notebook out. I'm going to learn so much from the rest of the panelists as well. But my background is in communications, as you said, and I think helping brands tell better stories, helping brands connect with audiences, their key audiences, and I have kind of an expertise in sports fandom. You know, I've written a couple books in that space, and I think there's just so much opportunity for brands and leagues and teams to create more of an authentic connection with fans. And there are so many similarities between the NFT community and the sports fan community. So excited to kind of dive in today.
Excellent, fantastic. Now, Thomas Euler, he's got a background in business consulting. However, being an avid NBA fan, who has also great experience at the intersection of technology and the media, he's a founder and CEO of Liquiditeam. Can you tell us about Liquiditeam, Thomas?
Sure. So thanks for having me. Liquiditeam, we launched a bit more than 2 years ago with a mission to explore what tokenization can mean for the sports industry and even the larger creator economy. And so we have 2 or even 3 services. The main one is Lte Fan Platform, which I sometimes call it the Shopify of fan engagement. It is a blockchain-based customizable platform for entities who have fans. For instance, we work with clubs. Borussia Dortmund is a client of ours. Dennis Schröder, a German NBA player, uses our technology. And this can be used to build communities for your fans. And these communities use blockchain and tokenization mechanisms. What in the blockchain world it becomes now known as social tokens is essentially what we build. And we are also launching our own NFT capabilities as we speak. And our mantra is really your fans, your platform. We think the sports entities cannot fully rely on the big social media platforms for their digital fan relationship, but they have the power to build their own platforms for a segment of their fans. And that is what we build, the technology and the digital infrastructure for them to make it as easy as possible.
Excellent, very exciting project. And now we've got Joan Riera, who created a media company which was sold to one of the biggest media groups in Spain, which is a great experience. But currently he's a head of communications at DoinGud. Joan, what's happening at DoinGud right now?
Oh, thank you, Anya. Super happy to be here with you guys. A bunch of things are happening in DoinGud. Actually, what we're trying to create here is the future of NFT marketplaces, right? Trying to build the future of the creator and giving economy, trying to empower collectors, those same creators, organizations, brands, and we truly believe very strongly in the giving economy and giving back. So not only creating value for the creator, organizations around them, but also giving back. So yeah, we're about to launch in about end of September, so in a few weeks, and we have a bunch of stuff going on, so super excited.
Excellent. So we've got 3 amazing projects, and I think it's going to be a very interesting discussion. Myself, I'm Anya Polan-Majczak. I'm a journalist and filmmaker. So I've been reporting for the publications such as Reuters, Getty Video, and Vice. And I'm also working on a couple of documentaries about blockchain. And because when I was working at Reuters and Getty Images in the past, I mostly reported on entertainment, and then I switched to technology, concentrating on blockchain. And that's why NFTs make so much sense for me, because it's the convergence of those two subjects, and particularly reporting on it and doing things like moderating this podcast. It's a very exciting new time for me. And perhaps we can dive directly into our subject. And perhaps, Chip, could you just give us a little bit of the outlook of what's going on when it comes to the use of NFTs by sports stars and their fans?
For sure. You know, I think we're really in the early stages here of sports fan adoption of NFTs, or even knowledge of NFTs, right? And you know, what you're seeing right now, I think there's kind of one shining example of a league that gets it and is moving forward, and we'll kind of dive into that, I think, a little bit further down the line here. But and a fan base of that league kind of starting to, like, the light starting to go on a little bit. So I'm talking about the NBA, with NBA Top Shot in particular. Mm-hmm. They've had their ups and downs over the last season and a half or 2 seasons, but it really feels like it's gathering momentum. And you know, you're seeing that fan base grow within. So NBA fans coming to Top Shot, buying NFTs, you know, getting packs of NFTs. They call them moments in Top Shot vernacular. And it's starting to kind of get bigger and bigger and bigger, right? More and more people are becoming aware of it. What's interesting is it's kind of become a gateway to other NFT projects. I've seen that a number of times where NBA fans, you know, get connected to Top Shot, they buy a pack, they start to build their collection of these moments or NFTs, and then they find other projects, and you know, be it, you know, Bored Ape Yacht Club or what have you, and you start to see these little communities growing, right? So it's kind of been this gateway into other projects. From the athlete side, as Thomas was saying, with Dennis Schroeder getting involved with his project, you're seeing athletes kind of finding their path and a way to kind of connect with fans via these NFTs, and also explore their own kind of dimensions, right? Like, so being a professional athlete, but having a passion for art, having a passion for creating, and you know, you're starting to see added depth, right? And they're able to connect with their fans in a kind of a new way. So I think we're at the very ground floor with a lot of this. I do think we're going to see, and I'm really excited to see in the next month or two, it feels as though the NBA is about to kind of press go on the rocket ship with support for NBA Top Shot. You're already seeing a number of integrations in the summer league and so on. So I just think there's a lot of potential, and all the other leagues really should take note and see how this goes, because, you know, we're talking about baseball and other leagues, and we'll get into that too. But I feel like there's a lot of potential, and we're just scratching the surface today.
Absolutely. And perhaps, Thomas, as Chip has mentioned, it's early days for NFTs in the sports industry. But could you tell us, why do you think that NFT technology is so applicable to the world of sports?
I mean, I think, so we are not primarily an NFT company, but we use tokenization in multiple forms, right? Our core product is first based around what now becomes known as social token. I prefer actually the word community token for it, but let's go with social token. And then we now introduce NFTs into these platforms as well. So that's just for a bit of a backdrop and orientation. But I think NFTs themselves, as like, what is an NFT? It's like it makes it possible to create unique digital objects or super rare digital objects, and this you can leverage in many ways. But much to the point of Chip, I don't necessarily know, especially talking about athletes, but also clubs, if the current versions of NFT usage that we see that are most they are like translations of collectors, like baseball cards, or in Europe we have these Panini pictures into the digital realm. And I think it's the analogy from the earlier internet time is a bit Yahoo versus Google. So Yahoo copied the phone book and the yellow pages and thought that is how you solve discovery. And then Google came and developed the PageRank algorithm and had a digital native version. And I think especially, and there is a difference between art, the world of art, and the world of sports. Because in art, probably having like an authenticity certificate for an art object is more or less enough already. But in sports, it needs to be, NFT needs to be something else, in my opinion, because it's more than just a collectible. But for instance, these Panini or baseball cards, there's always been like a social component to them. And now these social components, like going to the schoolyard, talking with your friends about it, you need the digital equivalent of this. And maybe a digital object that people want to have will be more than just a JPEG hashed on a blockchain. Maybe it will be in-game items that you can buy from your favorite sports star, but put on your Fortnite avatar or on your metaverse character at one point in the future. For right now, I think that the interesting part is just that athletes, but also clubs, have a new way to directly connect with their audience and use this technology to establish more direct connections to their fan base and to build new business models, new business cases on the one hand, but also grant more interactive participation to their fan base. And I think especially for these young digital audiences, that is super extremely important, because how do they consume entertainment? When you grow up on YouTube, on Twitch even, right? There is you're used to having a chat and you can pay for super chat, so your favorite streamer will read the super chat message and interact with you live. And sports really comes from the broadcasting, from the mass media age. And here there is a lot of opportunity, but also there are real challenges right now that the sports business is facing and needs to solve to connect with these younger audiences.
And as you mentioned, there is a difference between the world of arts and the world of sports. And Joan, from the perspective of the platform, can you tell us what's the situation? Are there different platforms that sports people using and different platform for the artists? And of course, what is DoinGud having in these regards when it comes to plans?
I think, since Chip and Thomas said, we're really on the early stages right now. I think we're seeing a lot of noise, a lot of new platforms coming out from our side and DoinGud. We of course are going to start more focused on digital artists, but that doesn't mean we don't want to integrate all kinds of creators into the platform, especially with the collaborative payment system we're creating to be able to collaborate even easier with other creators, other artists, other musicians, whatever it is, right? So for now, I have a feeling there's a big fragmentation, hyper-fragmentation of where all these assets are saved in right now, right? And I come from the media world. I pretty much saw this too many years ago when all the social media platforms were coming out. The news was distributed in all these different platforms and all these different formats. I have a feeling that hyper-fragmentation of the market is what's happening now with all these different platforms that are coming out in different chains, you know. So I think slowly, I think this is normal, but slowly I would love to see a bit more coordination and easiness with all these different marketplaces, it's called, to buy and sell, right? But I think that's gonna take a while. And I really believe there's an answer for this, because from the old media structure, I haven't seen any efficient model yet. That's why with all this new technology, I'm really excited personally to see how we can all actually coordinate and work together. I think that's a future, yeah.
And
Oh, I'm sorry, just to jump in, going back to this idea of why NFTs are applicable in the sports world, I feel like there are so many similarities, right, between the NFT community and the sports fan community. So if you think about diehard sports fans, what kind of creates that in a fan, right? How do you go from being a casual fan to being dyed-in-the-wool, love your team. And there are really three key components there. One, the specialness factor. So being at a game and seeing something that, is jaw-dropping, right? A perfect game in baseball, or an amazing play, or we just came off of the NBA Finals, and honestly, anything that Giannis did, right, there's that. If you saw it live, there's that specialness factor. Two, this sense of community. We're social creatures in general. There's something about going to a ballpark, a stadium, an arena, being surrounded by people that come from all different backgrounds, but love that team that you love, right? You're in that community together. You're witnessing something together. And then three is really the unique experiences. So the chance to meet your favorite players, the chance to see batting practice on the field, et cetera. And I feel like if you look at the NFT space, the specialness, you're talking about rare NFTs and different attributes there, community, be it meeting people that are into the same thing as you are, getting together on Discord, et cetera. There is that community aspect as well. And then the unique experience. And this is where I feel that there's so much potential for sport, unlocking utility, right, in those NFTs. Yeah. So if you hold an NFT, it's not just a matter, as Thomas was saying, of collecting stagnant, copies of the genuine artifact or a physical product. Having that that NFT, it unlocks something special for you, the fan. It could be if a team puts out an NFT. It could be, if you have this NFT, you get early access to something cool, or you get a meet and greet, or a 15-minute video call with your favorite player. That, you know what I mean? Like, so you start to unlock utility. And that's where you're starting to build that deeper connection with the fan that, as Thomas was saying, Gen Z fans, millennial fans, younger fans, every league is trying to figure out how to hold on to them or capture them. And what are they doing? I mean, if you look at Major League Baseball, they're just trying to shrink the game down. It's, let's put a runner on second base and end this game early because, God forbid anybody goes to extra innings. They're trying to shrink the game and make it so much shorter because, young fans, don't want to watch baseball for 3 hours. Well, maybe they just want a cool experience. Maybe they want something where they feel connected to their team, to their players. They're getting an experience that they would not get otherwise, So I feel like that's why there's such a great marriage here between NFTs and sports. And we just need to unlock that. We just need to kind of bring that out.
And I think in the beginning, when you started, Chip, you alluded implicitly to something that I want to make explicit. So as sports fans, you need to start more to think along the lines of a segmented fan base. You could talk about casual fans versus super fans. So we built product and our solution really it's not necessarily something for all the casual fans, but more for the more engaged fans. Like Kevin Kelly once wrote about one of the Wired founders, about 1,000 true fans, and along those lines, you can make different offers for different audience segments. And I think you will also see different solutions, because a super extensive NFTs that give you exclusive access to people, for instance, is certainly not something for the broad fan base. But also for these, you can define solutions. So I think we will see much more. You will see much more nuanced and differentiated product approaches that we are not yet having in this space.
Yeah, I think Thomas is saying, I think there are going to be different layers created of interactions, as you were saying, right, Thomas? Super fans. Then you're going to have, I think there's going to be different layers between the player, the teams, the brands behind the teams. I think we're about to see a huge explosion. I think we're still really early. We still haven't seen really how much and how deep we can actually play with NFTs. But I think we're going to start seeing many, many different layers of applications and uses that will actually bring that bonus, that extra that right now we still can't give, or we're doing it in very, old school ways.
Perhaps it's the right time to talk about those different applications of NFTs, because there is so much opportunity in the world of sports. Do you have any kind of like super weird ones, or really kind of eye-catching ones that you would like to mention here, just to give an idea to the audience of like what a great, you know, variety there is of applications?
Oh, for sure. Like I think, for example, Mike Tyson just launched this NFT, right? With what was the artist, Corin Van Loo? You know, because a bunch of artists are now getting in the wave. Everyone in it wants to launch the NFTs. I think there's very little information of these big celebrities, you know, understanding what can actually be done. For example, going to the case again, I was really surprised how Messi, right, well-known Messi, he did this Messiverse launch in the Untitled platform. I was so surprised of the lack of unlockables, as Chip was mentioning, that I was like, oh my God, they just lost a huge opportunity to give so much more. And that's why I'm referring now back to Mike Tyson's launch of NFTs, because in his 1-on-1 pieces, 5-of-5 pieces, he's been giving great, unique experiences, like what? A full day trip to his ranch, where you're probably going to end up smoking a joint with Mike Tyson. Or, you know what I mean? Or one-on-one boxing kind of practice with Mike Tyson. And these are the kind of experiences, I think, that we're about to start seeing very heavily. And I think what I was meaning before with the layers too, I think we're going to see different people organizing these experiences, right? Because from one side, we're going to have the players. From another side, we're going to have the teams. From another side, we're going to have the brands. They work with the players and the teams. So I feel, and the other day I was talking with a good friend of mine. He's really connected with, you know, NBA, representing NBA players and stuff. And, you know, it was curious. So we were talking, hey, look, maybe we do a launch. But there was a lot of IP, you know, doubts, because NBA Top Shot has the right, so you have to play it in a different manner. So I think we're going to start seeing this organically, like new ways of doing this. But I think there's going to be a heavy component of coordinating between all the different players in the field, right? But I mean, we can get creative as hell. Like we can go crazy. Like the artist can raise funds to change something, you know, to give back to a community just solely for that reason. Have personal experiences, dinners, trips, helping choose the next destination or the next fight. Imagine, you know, you can choose who's going to be the next. Like, I think we're going to start seeing so many more use cases, and not so unique, but collaborative too, right? People buying into the same NFT, maybe creating a mini DAO to actually vote on what to do with those, you know, convertible prices. I think there's so many things we could do. I don't know what you guys think, Thomas, Chip, or you, Anya, but I'm seeing it's a whole world still to be open. We're still not seeing. I just need
to plug in my laptop. Sorry, guys, but I can already continue to answer. I think one example that I wanted to mention as one of the more unorthodox, and actually I don't even know if it makes so much sense to do it in an NFT way, but there was this female tennis player, I forgot the name, but she tokenized a part of her arm, and the acquirer of the NFT was then able to put a tattoo on her arm, which of course is like advertising real estate. I mean, the problem here is essentially the following, because once you have the tattoo on your arm and then you sell the NFT, the next person, it's hard because there is already one tattoo. So does she laser it? So I don't know how it works operationally, but these are some of the things to see, and that is weirder. And going to your point, I think what is also worth noting, the IP landscape can be pretty complex, and for this, if you really want to do it, not in the guerrilla way, I think we saw some projects who didn't really look into like the right situations, but now every league is super aware, and all the sports are hyper aware, and they gave these memos to from the NFL to the NBA. All the teams received some memos what they must and must not do, and I think here it's good to know that every sport is a bit different, and you have different possibilities, right? In the US sports in general, you have it's managed by the leagues. Even there are some differences than football in Europe. All the leagues are a bit different. Tennis, the players tend to have much more rights, and so yeah, you really need to get into the nitty-gritty details of how these sports are organized, how rights are organized within these sports ecosystems, and then you can find out what you can actually do. So lawyers are still making a fair amount of money right now around NFTs, but c'est la vie.
You know, Thomas, I think you win. That tattoo piece was probably the weirdest thing that example that I've ever heard. But I think it's a great example, though, of the possibilities, right? It's, you know, what are all the applications of the NFTs? What can you unlock? It really comes down to the willingness, interest, and enthusiasm of the athlete, and the creativity of the athlete too, right? Well, if we're talking about athlete driven NFTs, what do they want to create for their fans, right? Leagues and teams, there are probably going to be even more kind of restrictions and all of that, and kind of go down the similar paths to what you might expect. Because again, they're trying to market to like broader audiences and all of that. But you know, Mike Trout with the Angels or Messi, for example, what does he want to do with his NFT? Like, could he, you know, create some sort of experience where you're like, wow, that's a one of a kind experience, you know, by way of the NFT. So I feel like it's really about the creativity and the enthusiasm that the athletes have. That's where the limit is. You know, the sky's the limit in many cases.
And we are seeing, you know, the high use of NFTs in sport genres such as basketball, tennis. What other sport disciplines do you expect to see entering NFT space? Or do you think it's going to be limited to these, you know, like mainstream ones?
No, I mean, oh, go ahead.
So from my perspective, I expect more or less every sport, and many sports have already dabbled with this. So we are working also a racing team that is soon going to launch on our infrastructure, then a German basketball team, and so on. So everything really, I believe the sport that you play niches. So what's so attractive about a niche? Like they are the big sports and the big brands, and they of course can win. But I think especially smaller sports or interests that they benefited from the internet and even from social media exponentially, because like you talked about hyperfragmentation earlier, like it's so easy to access content about whatever interests me. In Germany, I was an NBA fan as a teenager, but then the TV station that had the NBA rights didn't have them, and I couldn't watch it. And then at some point, the NBA launched League Pass and International League Pass, and now I was able to do it. So all thanks to the internet. And now these more interest, but also very often highly passionate communities, like for instance, running sports and these participatory sports. I think you can build really cool things in these niches that have less of a huge audience, but one that is probably even more engaged and has maybe more willingness to pay.
I think that goes back to the specialness factor too, right? Like if you feel like you're in on something. One, if you are a fan of a niche sport. Two, if you are meeting, you know, in part of a community of those fans that like the same thing you do, you're in on something special. But then adding in all the layers of what the NFT could provide. I mean, it's funny, Thomas, you mentioned running. I'm a competitive runner, and if I'm just waiting for ASICS to create some sort of incredible NFT project with their, you know, Olympic runners or athletes, and unlocking for runners like myself, you know, chance to, you know, test out concept shoes or train with an Olympian, or, you know what I mean? Like there are a number of things, and running is such a niche compared to NBA, Major League Baseball, NFL, etc. So yeah, I think as you get into those, you know, it is not limited, and this space is not limited to just the big dogs, right? It's any place or any sport where there are fans and there are leagues and brands and teams that want to build a stronger connection with fans. It's, you know, there's, you know, green fields to kind of play.
Yeah, I think, yeah, going back to that, to the niche, and going back to Thomas, what you were mentioning before about 1,000 true fans, I mean, I think we're going to see NFTs like a normal thing. I think people even call them NFTs. That's why we're super big fans of, for example, NBA Top Shot. They do a great job. If you go to their site, you don't even read crypto language and NFTs, and it's just collectibles, you know, people trading. It's that easy. So I think it's going to just be integrated into the mainstream to all the different dimensions. But I really think the beauty in this is, because we know the big athletes, the big sports, they're fine. The fans know, you know, they're okay. They're going to be doing fine. You know, they're going to play around with NFTs. I think the way bigger opportunity is in the long tail of sports and athletes that maybe don't have that huge base of following, but we all know that if you have those 1,000 true fans that will pay $100 per year acquiring something you create, you will be making $100,000 a year. You know, how you use those $100,000, that's why we want to call it the giving company. We want to give it back to society, right? Like now referring back to Vitalik's talk, and for example, it's a couple months ago, it's like, guys, we need to focus on the social part of things. Flipping, trading, making money is all good, but we have this huge opportunity to give back, and I think that's amazing. And giving back to that whole long tail of people in the sports industry is just, it unlocks like full potential, I think, to actually monetize in a transparent and right way.
I mean, you see it in music as well, like a market that you can probably look into to learn a bit. So you have the big acts, and similarly, it's definitely good to be LeBron James, right? But then in music, you have these niche acts. They have a fervent community. They release stuff maybe on Bandcamp also, and they tour to these hubs of their fan base, and of course, so athletes are not like these creators. That's also why, for instance, I tend to talk about who wants to use our product as an athlete. They need to be what I call creator athletes, the athletes who want to engage with the fan base. It's not their job, right? I don't think this world is for every athlete, because some athletes are by definition, first of all, athletes. They need to perform on the pitch, they need to practice, and so on and so forth, and not primarily interact with community. But some guys naturally do it. I would say from the up and coming generation, most naturally do it, and they are on Twitch, they are on YouTube, and they want to do it. They want to be more than an athlete, to quote LeBron here. And I think for this type, this personality type, it's a great opportunity also, because it might add to your longevity, because once you build these connections, these may or may not be lifelong connections with your audience that are manifested in the digital, but they are nonetheless real, and they feel real to a digital generation, right?
Right.
When we're talking about the readiness of the sports community for the technology, and as Joan mentioned, that blockchain community is ready to open the gates for this kind of mainstream use and mass adoption, as Vitalik said on the event in Paris. But the question is, how does it look in sports community? Because in the previous podcast we had interviewed number of creators, and there is a problem, especially with fine art artists. They want to produce NFTs, but they are quite often they're technophobes. They're so scared of technology. So I'm just wondering, what is your opinion when it comes to the sports community? Are they ready to be educated? Are they curious? Are they open? Like, is it going to be easier in that sector?
So I think I can jump in here. So one of my co-founders, Jonas, who's responsible for product at Liquiditeam, he in our early days gave a talk at ETH, so the Ethereum Community Fair or Congress in Paris, and it was roughly titled "Stop Talking About Blockchain." And I think because then people will come, and I think that is really important. Much to the point, we will not call it NFTs, which is super imprecise, even because NFTs can power tickets and they can power collectibles. They can even power IP and name, image, likeness rights tokenization if you want. So that is just a technology. So let's talk about the use case and how we approach product from really day one is on both the host side, like the operator of a tokenized fan community, and the end user, is abstract blockchain as much as possible away from everybody, because people don't care. I'm of the strong opinion that most regular users, normal sports fans, they know how to use an app and a digital device, but they don't care about technology. So once you do all the stuff we in the blockchain world know, and we know why it's good to have your own private key and create seed phrases and so on, but most sports fans don't, and that is even reflected in the numbers. And you mentioned how great NBA Top Shot is doing at abstracting this away, and like a crypto purist or maximalist would probably say, well, is it even so this, it's not, but it doesn't have to be. And even they had, in the peak month of March, I wrote about it on Sports Pro, so I remember the number. So everybody was talking about it, 185,000 unique buyers. So if you think in crypto project scale, that is pretty significant, but in internet and NBA scale, it's nothing. And it felt really like it was all the hype. And so rare in football, European football, the biggest sport in the world, by the way, football, even worse, because they had less than 10,000. I think they had 8,500 unique buyers. They did a bit better last month with like 14,000, but that is, in football scale, it's nothing. So let's be aware, it is still pretty niche, but it has a lot to do, in my opinion, with UX. Not only, but also with UX.
Yeah, I was that point that you both made just on Top Shot. It's such an easy on-ramp for the fan to engage and kind of dabble in NFTs and then kind of take it from there, right? Because it's a beautiful product, and the way that they're leveraging video for these moments, and I'm talking about Top Shot, it's an easy on-ramp to NFTs and creating that connection between fan and league or sport or team without it being so gorpy and technical that it's off-putting, right? And I feel like that's how you get over the fear of technology or the I don't get it, this is not for me, right? Like I think about, again, Major League Baseball, so desperate to cultivate a young fan base. You don't dive into it talking about crypto and blockchain and all that. You create a beautiful product that people want, that has that degree of rareness or uniqueness and can connect you better with that ball club or player, et cetera, right? And then that fan is now in learning about NFTs and all of that, but they're doing it through something beautiful and unique that is just easy to understand versus let me tell you all about crypto and blockchain. And that's again, it's too much for most fans. But 6 months down the road, 8 months down, now all of a sudden they're starting to understand the terminology and they feel like they're in on something special. We're all in the early stages of this. They're now early and part of that community, right? So I feel like it's an ongoing education, but it can't start with like the 301 class. It's got to be the 101, right?
Yeah, definitely. And it's like so I think most, especially today, I'm not sure if most, but at some point most internet users knew what a browser was. But if you wanted them to explain HTTPS or anything, they would have been lost. And we need to get at least to this level. And I think we are there. I mean, we did it with our project, some others doing great stuff there, and that is where you need to get. So or depending also on your approach, right? There are some products out there that specifically cater to the crypto sports fan overlap audience, which is, I guess, super attractive because many people who are in these two bubbles might also be in the sports betting bubble, and that is probably individuals who have an affinity to pay money for things. So some products cater well to this audience, and then here you need to find out what are you doing and who are you catering to, like also with normal products, right?
And as we are talking, both sports stars and sports fans have to educate themselves. They have opportunity to educate themselves. What great opportunity lies in front of them. But I think it has been also mentioned, it's not just them. There's also brands and other parties which can benefit from this technology, right?
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to say, I feel like, if you go back however many years, what are you trying to do as a brand? You're trying to make a connection with people that will buy your products and so on, right? You're trying to create loyalty. So it's just a natural progression, right? What as a brand could you do in the world of sport to create that, you know, if I'm choosing from between 3 or 4 different brands, oh, I love these guys because they, you know, they get me, they know what I like, they're connected to some of my favorite athletes, and they're giving me an opportunity to engage in a way that is just, you know, blowing my mind, because, yeah, it's not just a transactional relationship of, you know, I like this brand, I buy their product. It's, you're now in this NFT space, you're getting, again, it goes back to experience quite often, and it goes back to being part of a community. So I keep using ASICS because I'm an ASICS brand loyalist when it comes to running. But what could you do there to, you know, if people are kind of selecting running shoes, if there were, again, they have so many sponsored athletes, what could you do to create experiences for, you know, for fans of those athletes, and make that connection through the brand, and all of a sudden you've got even more loyal users or consumers.
So Chip, I guess I can hop in here and help you out, because so one feature that we built on Fan Platform is what we call sponsor token. So sponsor token. So if you have our without going too deep into our product, but when users do stuff like, for instance, they open the application, or they create an idea. We have a feature where users can create ideas and then upvote ideas, and all these events you can reward with a free token, and you can put a sponsor on top of this. And we will do similar stuff with our NFT module as well. So now, much to your point, you have like a new type of advertising inventory almost, that is not only based, it's not like an in-feed advertisement where you scroll by, but you do something and then you get rewarded by the sponsor. But you can also tie it to some of these things that are powered. For instance, like these ideation missions, right? So one approach, like you say, advertisers, or at least some of them, crave connection with an audience that goes deeper than just awareness and getting the brand name out there. So assume you can now co-create with audiences of the entities you sponsor anyways, and it goes much deeper. Of course, right, if you're out for reach, it's probably not your tool. But if you want to say, okay, hey, get back to your sneaker example. So what would be the key features for our new sneaker? And we co-create this with our community, and you will have all these loyal buyers. So you don't need necessarily NFTs for this, but now something that we are also thinking about is, now people have an NFT or a social token, doesn't really matter. They have a token of an entity they are a fan of, a club or an athlete. And now a sneaker company usually has a sneaker configurator where you can do your own design. And just imagine you use this, because blockchain is not only tokens, it's also open standard, and therefore can create interoperability. Now, in the sneaker configurator, you could take your NFT to it and unlock a unique design element that you can only have if you also own this token. And these kind of experiences, I think, will be super interesting for the broader sports ecosystem.
And
100%.
there is words like community and connection, which are appearing a lot in this conversation. And Joan, I was thinking from the perspective of the platforms or the tools that sports fans and sports stars are using, do we expect to have those two things separated, like the actual purchase of NFTs and the social layer interaction, or do we want to have it integrated? What do you predict is going to happen?
I think it's going to be super integrated. From the DoinGud perspective, we're thinking social, we're thinking community, we're thinking that fan base around that creator, let's call it an artist, or that brand. We're creating these multi-gallery systems where brands can open their own galleries, sell their own NFTs. We believe, and we see it, you know, and talking a lot with Manu, the founder of DoinGud's project. We see it in the future. Of course, you know, once we launch, we're going to start step by step, milestone by milestone. We won't have all the features. I'm guessing, Thomas, you know how it is. Like, you know, you slowly advance once you have everything ready. But we really see it as social, connecting people, creating those communities. That's where the real strength from all this is. You know, that's why we're talking before about brands. I'm really curious, and we talked about it before we started the call, but I'm really curious how brands will actually adopt this technology and how well they're going to be able to communicate with that audience, right? Those fans, because of course the core fans are usually attached to the athlete, maybe not so much to the team, but of course, Chip, I know you can probably just discuss this out from everywhere, from teams and stuff, or let's call it brands, right? I think it's going to be really interesting to see how they adopt this the same way brands were trying to adopt social media, which in many cases it was done in a horrible way, like in a robotic, very cold way, close to the audience. I think we're going to see a lot of that, not well structured and done really well cultivated communities, and those are going to be the winners for sure. But it's going to be social, 100%.
But I think two things happened if you look back to social media, and maybe this can be indicative. Like you say, there was a lot of like owned and operated social media, but a new set of companies was built also on social media that was really native to this paradigm of like direct to consumer and so on. And you had advertising developing, like the brands, like the mass media era brands, they just saw, okay, we can do advertising here on the platforms, or now they realized, and that goes back to the point of hyper fragmentation. You probably need to do influencer marketing and use these personalities that people are actually interested in, because they are not so interested in our brand. And I think NFT, I don't know if it's going to change the cultural paradigm so much. Like, I think you now have this direct to consumer world where people follow people, they want to interact with people, and brands either can build a very strong narrative and do this themselves, and then they can also use NFTs and these new ways to create value, or they can advertise. And I think here is an interesting new way, because for the creator economy age, we don't have native advertising tools yet, right? We have for the social media age something that comes more from mass media, like in-feed advertising, interrupting, but now everything is so interactive, and I think here you can build really interesting new models for brands to connect with audiences or reach audiences.
100%. I mean, the typical ad structure is broken, just what you see, like half of the ad server is served, it's spam, it's bots, it's a huge billions and billions of dollars every year that are being thrown to waste. We all know here, I think we've all had a website or something, you see the CTRs, the click-through rates, and it's usually because it's a mistake because they just put it in front of their phone, and then that's a 0.01%, right, conversion. So I agree, the model is completely broken. That's something that for me, for example, it made me fall out of love of the whole media industry, because I was seeing how caught up you were with those brands and how the advertising industry worked and how hard it was to skip that to be able to keep being funded. And that's why I think, as you said, Thomas, we're creating so many new tools, to monetize. Brands have new tools, but especially the creators, the athletes. I mean, giving power to these people, I think it's going to be the real game changer. I think brands will have to simply completely adapt in most of the cases to these athletes, to these creators, right? Because of these new tools, what we're talking about, any athlete can come up and sell themselves, and I think that's amazing.
What that's going to create is more authenticity, right? It's the athlete is being real. The brands have to adapt and create authentic experiences. And I think, the brands that do advertising, marketing, and comms, the best are the ones that are being authentic and real, and connecting in a very real way with their audiences, versus, as you said, the spamming or using social channels just for plugging ads and pushing their own agenda. It's how are they creating that authentic connection, something real with the people that are consumers of their brand or consumers of sport, as we're talking about brands intersecting with the world of sports. And as you're giving the power to the athletes to create NFTs or get into that space too, brands will have to adapt as well, and it's more of an authentic connection that they're making with fans.
But now, so if, it might first off sound going a bit far off topic, but then I will try to bring it back. So I think one thing, if you look at how brands communicate, then it also comes down to what is your business model and how does it work. And so if you talk about brands who want to be authentic, then and maybe even edgy, these are brands for the internet age, because mass media brands and mass market brands, like the average toothpaste company pre-internet, they want to find the smallest common denominator to appeal to as many people as possible, because, you know, small shelf places on the shelves and so on and so forth. So they had to be not edgy by definition, because they had to reach everybody. And these internet brands can be different, and we see people appeal now to more what really attracts them in these niches in the world they believe in. Now what does this all have to do with sports? Now, Ben Thompson, maybe you know him, he's one of the best like internet business writers. He once wrote a piece called The Sports Linchpin, and he made the great argument, and it's absolutely true, that sports today is super tied into the mass media and mass market era. So why are broadcasting deals so high? Why do TV stations, the networks, pay so much? Because it's one of the last things that draws massive live audiences in front of a screen, and like all these mass market advertisers need it. But now I believe that the audiences for this, but also the consumption of media is massively changing, and also the advertisers, more and more the brands made for the internet, they are much more performance oriented. Awareness is not unimportant, but they care about performance much more. And now sport will have to compete in this world, but they come from the other world, and now they need to find these new models and ways to attract audience, maintain audience, and monetize audience that is not TV, because these broadcasting deals, I can guarantee you, will come to an end.
We're painting a very interesting vision of the future where hopefully everybody will be able to benefit from. But slowly we're going towards the end of the podcast. I was wondering if we have any questions to each other.
I think I'll ask Thomas a question here. I'll be curious. You know, you're building this company centered on fandom and connecting fans with brands and or leagues and teams and all of that. What are you seeing as the biggest needs that the community is raising? You know, as it pertains to like what they want to get out of this space as they're connecting with the teams and leagues that are part of your product. So I think the key development that we are currently seeing is they just want to be able to interact on a very simple model. It's not even as much as they want to have votes. So probably it would be cool if clubs let them vote, or like fan controlled football is doing like this American league where they can even make play calls, but it's more like feeling really close to this. And that is what it has become common on social media, because like I said earlier, right, super chat, and on YouTube you can comment, and these people are approachable, and very often sports still isn't approachable, except for certain athletes who are this. And we try to build a good solution that packages the narrative of sports in a way that these younger digital audiences can understand. And then, of course, our core audience, we don't sell to the public. We sell to B2B. So we have a B2B2C platform. I think on the B2B side, it's a set of problems we are catering to, but mostly also centered around reaching these young audiences and building digital business models that are future-proof. Very cool.
Excellent.
And so my question would be to Joan. I don't know the perfect pronunciation.
Right, you said it perfect.
So what is your vision being in the marketplace realm about NFTs in the sports world specifically? What trends are you seeing there?
In the sports world with NFTs and marketplaces?
Yeah.
I believe, honestly, for what I've been
like
talking,
I can make it more concrete. Like do you think it's going to be just like the big marketplaces, OpenSea, that are more leaning towards the art world, or do you see there are specific requirements that marketplaces need to comply with to be interesting in the sports world?
Yeah, I mean, I think not only the players will create the communities around them, but also marketplaces are going to create communities around themselves. So I think there's a space for everyone in the market. I think different marketplaces will start being created to focus into different niches, how we're already seeing happening slowly. I think this is going to grow in the future, and I think the own marketplace as a brand, let's call it, has to also create that community around them. I believe they need to have a real clear message out there. What's our purpose? What are we trying to do here? What are the perks we're going to be playing with? And yeah, so I believe the trend I'm seeing is going again into those niches, right? Because the future is niche. In the end, it's just small communities hyper-connected, right? And in the end, once we're able to connect easily all the different chains and it's all interoperable, etc., I believe it's going to be, you know, in the future, I believe in the metaverse, you know, we're all going to be connected and walking around our shops like the physical shops. So it's not going to matter if you look into one marketplace to another, but I believe as marketplaces, there are going to be entities too with their voice, with their language, with their community. And I think that's going to be one of the key things in the future, to cultivate that and really connect. I mean, OpenSea, it's a great platform. It's huge. It's the Google of, you know, NFTs. I think there's very little space for those kind of players, as we've already seen with the Googles and Yahoos or whatever it is in history. And that's a, you know, a specific market that will index everything, and it's just going to be easy. I think in different marketplaces, way more value will be created than the value that, for example, OpenSea can bring to the people selling their collections there. So that's how I imagine the future. You know, we're going to have the big spaces where everything is going to be there, and then we're going to have those little other marketplace with their voice, their languages, their missions, right? For example, in DoinGud, we have a huge social impact organization mission. We want to donate at least 5% of every, you know, of the volume being traded in the platform. We want to attack the 17 SDGs by the United Nations, right? So we will want to attract people who are aware of this and want to give back, right?
Yeah, and I think we also see for this to work out, you need liquidity, but you now also see like these liquidity protocols emerging specifically for the NFT space. So if those emerge, I think you can, with highly specialized marketplaces for certain use cases and audiences, this can work out. Yeah,
I mean, DeFi is going to be merged into the whole NFT game heavily. And I think that's going to open so many new doors too to play with, right? For example, we were having this conversation the other day, not only as marketplaces, but what can we bring, for example, in our case, to the SIOs? What if we don't only raise money for the SIOs? What if from the money raised, we help them actually put that money into work with new DeFi systems to actually, you know, keep that going on instead of doing the hard work of raising money every year. Like, I think DeFi will bring so many cool new ways to just go even bigger and do things even better, you know?
I've got a question to yeah, sorry, go on, Thomas.
Now, just if I can ask another question to Chip this time. So I would be curious, when are you going to write a book titled like our claim, Tokenizing Fandom, the sequel to Fandom?
Well, I'm about 35,000 words into that one so far. So watch this space. No, just kidding. Just kidding. Yeah, I mean, gosh, it's all happening so fast, right? Where, you know, I mean, for me, it's been this massive education in the last like 6 to 8 months. And yeah, I mean, there probably is a book there. Whether I'm the guy who's going to write it or not, I mean, you know, time will tell.
I'd read it. I'm about
it. Yeah, everybody who wants to get the, you know, subscription for Chip's book, like, you can find us on Twitter. But I've got a question to you all. What type of NFT would you like to buy? An NFT, of course, sports themed NFT. Do you have any ideas?
I mean, I've kind of laid myself bare out there. I would love to see, again, it's tied to personal interest, right? So be that a running specific experience with the brands that I align myself with. I just think there's so much cool potential that brands can do to create utility in that space. So that's me personally. Or on the cycling side, is there something that Trek or what have you that they can create with their pro athletes or their cyclists? I mean, I'm watching the Vuelta a España right now, and I see the smile there, Joan. So what could you do in that space? For me personally, it's that. It's also obviously keeping an eye on Top Shot and seeing how they progress. And I think this season, again, it's gone from a niche with however many 500,000 users to I think they're about to open up the floodgates with not just Top Shot marketing, but the NBA marketing Top Shot, and that's going to open up a whole new world. So it'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah.
My favorite NFT would be like an NFT that actually contains copyright and other types of rights. Like imagine NBA Top Shot where I can buy a highlight, but I actually own it. I can actually get royalties whenever it is used by somebody. This would be the type of NFT I would find really cool, and then I would buy like everything from all Michael Jordan baskets or LeBron James baskets, and then this would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I think if I had to buy the perfect NFT, it would definitely be related to NBA, and definitely be not by NBA Top Shot, but by the NBA player himself as a person, offering those personal experiences. I think that'd be beautiful. And the money that I'm paying for that NFT is being used for a good cause. I think that'd be my view of the NFT.
And Anya, we can't wrap this up without hearing what NFT.
Oh yeah, yes. Well, I'm a tennis fan. I love playing tennis. So I would like the NFT version of this famous poster where this woman is scratching her bum. So I think it should be done, converted to a GIF, animated GIF. Is high time. Yeah. But yeah, thank you everyone for joining this conversation, and it's been great talking to you. I think we've all learned a lot, and I invite everyone to join us on Twitter, where we have information about the podcast, and we of course tag our great speakers. But for now, I invite you to next week when we'll be talking about NFTs for museums and institutions, which is going to happen same time, same day next week. But once again, Thomas, Chip, and Joan, thank you so much. It's been great talking to you, and have all great week. Thank you so much.
You too. Thanks very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Hello again.